Leader of the third party.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. And I think we've seen a pattern emerge in this government at becoming very good at shielding itself from accountability when a public needs to know that they're actually here to serve them. News articles this week show how this province needs to do better to prepare us for floods, fires, and landslides. A quick scan of what we're hearing in the media. The Vancouver Sun says, quote, more potentially fatal landslides, severe flooding ahead unless BC enacts reforms. CBC says, quote, emergency operations centre activated on BC's north coast in anticipation of flooding. And from the Vancouver Sun earlier in May, quote, we're not prepared when extreme wildfires and flooding hit BC. Alan Chapman, the former head of the River Forecast Centre, said that the Premier, quote, deflects accountability for failures within government. He said that the floods and landslides that we saw last year were all foreseeable. They weren't only tied to climate change, according to the Canadian Centre for Policy Alternatives. They were tied to poor land management practices like extensive logging and logging roads in river valleys and on mountain slopes. He said that the provincial government had all the information they needed to heed the warnings to vulnerable communities and to plan ahead. But that's not what happened last year, Honourable Speaker. My question through you is to the Premier. What has he done differently this year to prepare British Columbians for the disasters exacerbated by reckless land use practices that we're guaranteed to see?
Minister of Forests.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I thank the member for the question, and I'm only too happy to talk about everything that we have done to get ready for this year, because we full well, as the member has said, it is an issue around climate change, but it is issues around other things, and we know that there are opportunities to mitigate these situations. For instance, the member referred to some of the articles, and they referred to Forest Service roads, and we are committed to improving the work that needs to be done on Forest Service roads in this province. We've actually created a new Forest Service road data system, and this allows us to track the road use permit users and also the maintainers on Forest Service roads. And it's really important work that also needs to be done to do the inspection on Forest Service roads. We also made recent changes this last fall to the Forest and Range Practices Act that gives government greater management and greater control over forest roads, and it also protects public safety as well as the environment, which is critically important. We're committed to ensuring that Forest Service road networks remain safe. At the same time, we've also increased, the member talked about the River Forecast Centre team. We have, in line with our commitment to climate preparedness and adaptation, we've increased staffing levels at the River Forecasting Centre. We've added new employees to support river modelling and forecasting, as well as recruiting for more employees to come in. We've also brought in, bringing other new roles in that has recently been finalized to focus on information technology and technical capacity, and that will also be posted shortly. We are committed to ensuring that we are prepared for the seasons, regardless of what it brings, and we will do that.
Leader of the third party, supplemental.
Honourable Speaker, we sure hear a lot from this government about committed to something in the future, committed to things. We did these inputs, but we don't hear a lot about the outcomes. No. This government has made gaslighting its organizing principle for communications. What people need from this government is to recognize the reality that they are experiencing. Whether it's people who can't get back to their town because it's burnt down and hasn't been rebuilt, farmers who can't grow crops because their fields got flooded, people who can't afford basic necessities like food and rent, people who can't get their cancer test results because they don't have a family doctor. The Premier uses this government's communication machine to pat themselves on the backs and take jabs at their opponents. Meanwhile, they ignore looming crises. They're out of touch with the reality that British Columbians are experiencing. With a few notable exceptions, Minister of Agriculture, Minister of Transport, Minister of Childcare, and the Attorney General What we have gotten out over the course of budget estimates and question periods in this session is message boxes that don't acknowledge the reality of what British Columbians are telling us. They feel fear, they feel anxiety about the future, they feel financial pressures, and they are experiencing mental health and health impacts, and there is a broken trust with this government. The Premier thinks that to recognize reality is to succumb to despair, but the truth is, Honourable Speaker, being honest is essential to providing hope for a more secure future. My question through you is to the Premier. Can he be honest about the state of affairs in this province?
Government House Leader.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. I think questioning the integrity of any member of this House, particularly the Premier, through a rambling statement without a question attached to it, quite frankly, I find offensive.
Members, the chair allowed the statement to be made by the leader of the third party. There was no question yet. Members, let's not cross the line. No, let's hear what the Government House Leader has to say.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and I know the member said there's no question, but there definitely will be an answer, because in this rambling statement, the member sort of went over a whole series of issues, and I just want to set the record straight, Honourable Speaker, that it doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it is in education, whether it is in healthcare, whether it's in transportation, whether it's in forestry, whether it's in land use. This government is working every single day to improve the lives of British Columbians, and we have been doing it with a budget. We have been doing it with a budget that deals with issues around affordability, Honourable Speaker. It's why there's a rebate. It's why there's a rebate going out, Honourable Speaker, as we speak, to millions of policyholders.
Members will come to order. Members, please continue.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. This government's job is being done every day by ensuring that the priorities of British Columbians come first and foremost. That's what we will do. That's why we're over there, and that's what we will continue to do for the next 2.5 years of this session, Honourable Speaker.